Steve, what would you do with $0?
I would march into my investors and apologize for presenting a business plan that did not call for a marketing budget. Look, if you're creating a piece of software that's free and there's zero risk to the user to download this, then sure, there are many ways you can spread the word and get people to try this or visit your website.
Like what? Like what? We want specifics here.
Many of the things that were just mentioned, right? You reach out to your Twitter followers that you have, you reach out to the appropriate bloggers, you find the forums, and you make all that noise. But if you're asking people to pay for something, that's a very different scenario, right? If you are out there to try to convince people that, hey, I've created a product that is so valuable, you should pay me some amount of money and take some risk, then it's not enough to just reach out to the few hundred people or the few thousand people who may be following you. It doesn't work. And if you think about what most advertising is all about, it's not really reaching out to the end users. It's reaching out to the distribution channel, right? So GM isn't advertising to end users. They're advertising to the dealerships. Essentially, they're showing the dealers that, hey, we are helping you sell cars. This advertising is helping you sell cars. GM never sells a car directly to you. You buy the car from the dealer. Clorox never sells you a bottle of bleach. You buy it at the supermarket. The advertising that they do is intended to support.
How many agree with this?
The channel.
How many disagree with it? Okay.
A lot of shy people. Not all, they were not 100%.
But you're saying that you have a free site, so
Well,
it's mostly free, right?
Our pockets.
Yeah.
But my point is, I don't think that the approach of, hey, you don't need to advertise, you can just reach out through social channels, works for every product. It works if you have a very risk-free product.
But do you believe, let's say it's a product for sale, do you think that distribution channel generates demand or merely fills something that people are demanding?
So is the question, I'm sorry, let me try to understand the question. Is distribution creating demand or...
No,
or
if General Motors did not have any dealers, right, do you think the dealers actually generate demand with their local marketing, their local presence, or all that? Or General Motors dealership, all they do is General Motors makes people want to buy the new Camaro, and then these people walk into a dealership and get fulfilled.
Well, let's face it, our entire economic structure is based on companies selling something to someone else. And in many cases, it's because you already arrived at the conclusion that I needed that. In many cases, maybe, you know what, I had no idea I needed that product, but now that I see it and I realize the problems that it solves for me, I'm pretty interested in getting it. And there are many examples, I think, where we've purchased products that I never would have woken up and thought I needed an iPod, but now that I can see all the great things it does and the value it brings,
okay,
that's pretty interesting, and I'm willing to
go
into that.
Louis, I'll start with you, and then we'll come back to you, Louis, just so you don't always have to answer first. Louis, so now let's change the question. Let's say you now have $10,000. I'll give you some options, and you can explore any options you want. Let's say you hire 3 interns to do keyword searches on Twitter for $3,000 a month each. Do you hire Renee for 1 month? Do you spend 10 grand to go to TechCrunch 50 and have a booth? What do you do with 10 grand, not 0 grand?
But first thing I do is what we did, is have immediately a resource that was me at the beginning, answering every single piece of feedback we find online, which starts at very, very low, because nobody cares. I was about to be. But if you search your brand on Twitter or your customer's brand, and it doesn't exist, it's either dead or not born yet. And in both cases, you have to do something. And the first thing I do is, if I don't have a budget, I do it myself, which I started doing. And then I hire someone who is in the back of the room, John Yamazaki, who is our community evangelist. And among other things, what John does is he answers every single piece of feedback which quotes Sismic on Twitter. So if you say, I screwed, Sysmic screwed up. It's never I, it's always Sysmic that screws up. Always, right? You notice that with your products, which is fair enough. And we help. And you'll find either John or myself sometimes, as often as possible, at 2 a.m. answering that. Because especially if it's negative, if they criticize, sometimes it's violent on Twitter. I'm amazed, like it's brutal, it can be insults. It means they care. I'd rather that than nothing. And then answering, so $10,000, yes, you get an intern. John, we should talk about your salary.
Is that a raise or a cut?
No, but you can get some kind of that. And that, I think, is the best investment possible because you turn people who criticize into advocates if you help them a lot.
Okay.
And you show that you pay attention.
Okay, Renee, what would you do with $10,000?
Depends on the product. I think a lot of the things that we're finding that work for us now, definitely the community relations aspect. I agree with Loic on that. Whether it's an intern or a community relations person, someone who really understands audiences and can kind of go out there and monitor and also engage. So I think there's a two-pronged approach. There's going to be someone who goes out there and monitor, and then someone who actually understands your brand and understands the direction that you want. Those are the people who should be engaging. It shouldn't be the interns, right? And there's a whole controversial topic about that right now. The other thing that we find that works is online video. Again, it depends on the product, right? It depends on the product, but you can actually get a very effective video done and get it out there for very little money. One little trick, by the way, if you have your video up and you figure out what category it's in and go and look for other keywords of other videos that are really popular and tag it in a similar way, you're actually going to end up going up in the ranks. Little tip.
What would be in this video?
Well, it again depends on the product, but it could be, you could do humor. You could actually do a teaser, almost a teaser campaign. Again, you're sort of asking me blind without having a product. Give me a product, I might be able to brainstorm.
So do it for your Boomer website.
Boomer website. Well, interestingly enough, they're coming out with, that's one of the things I did recommend that they do. And one of the things that we're going to actually start doing is interviewing boomers around their use of technology, why they use it, why they don't use it. So that's one of the things that we're actually going to roll out. And also look for products that work really well for the aging audience, and we're actually going to review them. Okay. So this is something that we're actually doing, and it's very, very little money. We got an intern through Craigslist who wants to get into video production, and we're rolling that out. So, but I think that the real thing here, guys, is that PR has an opportunity here to become almost like the corral manager, if you like, the corral manager of community relations. So if you think about what we've always been about, for those in the room who are about PR, since I'm dressing that, or I'm wearing that hat, is it really is about public relations. It's never been about press releases. It's never been about, it's really about addressing the public. I mean, it's people like, you remember the Walmart situation a couple years ago where a blogger contacted the head of PR and she said, well, we don't deal with bloggers. Well, I'm sorry, PR deals with everyone in the public. Public is in the word, right? So our audiences are just larger than they've ever been. So I think we have a huge opportunity now. I think PR is actually more important than it's ever been because we have an opportunity to step in and wear that strategic hat and say, okay, all of the community relations managers that we need to monitor those 6,000 threads out on Twitter and Facebook and MySpace and Ning and everywhere else that we've got to hang out and actually provide the strategic direction for that. Okay. And that's where I think it needs to go.
Do you think